Welcome back to the Intuitive Resolution Podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Farricielli, and have Liam Naden today with us. He is going to talk to us about a lot of mindset stuff, how our brain is wired for survival, how he went through homelessness, and all kinds of awesome stuff in his story. So welcome to the show, Liam.
Hi, Alicia. Thank you very much for having me here.
So tell me, how did you go from being homeless to success? Because that's a big there.
Well, actually, what most people normally ask me is, how did you go from being a multimillionaire to homeless in the first place? Because I was in a place where I had really achieved success. You know, I was a multimillionaire and I had multiple businesses. But so I guess I could tell you what that journey was and how I came out of homelessness, because it all ties in. But I think the best way to explain it is to really, there was a particular day that I remember very well. And it was when I was just putting the finishing touches on my dream home. And, you know, for years I'd had this idea, this was one of my dreams, was to have this particular type of a home. And I wasn't quite finished, but we were living in it and it was amazing. And it had a music room attached because I'd been a musician earlier in my life. And one of my dreams was always to have a music room. So I remember walking in this particular day into the music room. And it was a stunning day. The sun was shining. I had some big windows, really for inspiration, built into this music room. And it looked out over the mountains where our property was. And I remember thinking, you know, this is amazing. I've done it. I've made it. I've achieved my dreams. I've reached all my goals. Here I am. I'm a multimillionaire. I've got several businesses. I've got this amazing home that is everything I ever wanted, with my own music room. But I am totally and utterly miserable, because I was thinking, you know, I should be so happy about this. I've done it. I can't think of anything else I want in my life, really, apart from having my soul nurtured. Because that's what it felt like, was instead of being happy and grateful and really enjoying everything that I had, everything that I'd worked for a long time, for years, I was so stressed. I was so unhappy. And because I had so many problems in my life, and I had, you know, things not going right and all of these other things going on, but I literally couldn't enjoy my own success. And I was thinking to myself, because I remember this very clearly, I thought, is this really what it's all about? What's the point of all of this? And in fact, you know, I feel so unhappy, so stressed. Maybe what I should do is just throw everything away, get rid of everything I have, because I would rather do that. I would rather lose everything than lose my soul, because that's what it felt like. It felt like my life force, as I mentioned earlier, was literally being drained out of me, you know. And I thought, there's got to be something wrong here. Well, as you well know, you have to be careful about what you wish for, because literally within a few weeks, I did lose everything. You know, the house went with the music room, all my businesses collapsed, my marriage, everything went, and I was left with nothing. I was homeless. I literally had a few clothes. And I had to move back in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in the living room of her small apartment. So that was a huge shift in my life. And worse, you know, and if anyone's ever been through this, through losing everything, you'll understand and know that it's not just about losing your stuff. It's almost like losing your identity, or everything you know about yourself and about how you think things work. It's suddenly not there anymore. You have no bearings, no things to relate to. And all of that time I was going through that, and it was a really bad time. It was a really dark time. But I kept asking myself two fundamental questions that just kept coming back into my mind. And the first one was, why has this happened to me? Because here's the funny thing, not just was I a successful businessman, I wasn't just a successful entrepreneur. I mean, I've had 18 different businesses in my life, so I know a thing or two about setting up businesses, and a lot of them have been very successful. So I wasn't just a businessman, though. I was a student of success. And for years, I had studied everything I could about how to be successful. And I'd done personal development, self-help, you know, goal setting, reprogramming your subconscious mind and your beliefs, changing your motivation and all of these things, and visualizations, and, you know, And I'd also studied a lot of spiritual things as well, meditation and other spiritual practices, religion. So I'd studied all of these things, but none of them seemed to be of any help to me where I was, because how could this have happened? So I said, why has this happened to me? I know about success. I know about how your thoughts manifest your reality. I never thought this would happen. This wasn't in my wildest nightmares that I would end up like this. So I thought, why has this happened to me? Like everything I've tried doesn't seem to have worked. I've got my goals here. I don't see it on my goals list to lose everything and become homeless. So that was the first question. And the second question was, what do I do now? I don't know what to do. I was in a foreign town. I knew nobody. I had no money. I had less than no money. People were wanting money I didn't have. I thought, what do I do now? I can't see any opportunities for my life. And I had a breakthrough moment. And it probably, if I had any other experience in my life, if I hadn't hit this place of rock bottom, I would never have done what I did. And that was, I realized to myself that those two questions, why has this happened to me and what do I do now? I realized the answer was, I don't know. I simply have no idea what's going on. And what I didn't realize was, as I say, that was a turning point, because what I said to myself was, I don't know what's going on, so you know what? I'm just going to give up. I really don't have any energy anymore to care. I'm not going to try and figure out what to do. I'm not going to try and figure out look for opportunities, try hard, work hard. I'm not going to do any of that. I let go, which is another way of saying, in reality, I give up. So I let go. And then something really weird happened, because a new relationship came along. Because remember, I'd lost my marriage as part of losing everything. This amazing relationship came along. Then a business showed up in my life. Before I knew it, I was running a business again and I was making some good money again. Then another business showed up in my life. And other things started to show up in my life. And before I knew it, then I was traveling all around New Zealand in a brand new motorhome that my partner and I had imported. How did that happen? Then we moved to Europe on a one-way ticket. And we bought our own brand new yacht. And we spent 8 years sailing all over Europe, going to Italy, went all around the coast of Italy, but all the way from Norway and Sweden, all the way down to the Greek islands and Turkey. And we spent 8 years doing this. And I remember once being in the Greek islands on my yacht. And you can imagine another scene. Compare it to that scene when I was in the music room of the house in desperation. But in this scene, this day I really, really remember clearly. I remember getting up and the sun was shining. There were no other boats anywhere. A beautiful bay. Just falling off the back of the boat, having a nice swim, getting out of the water, and having already checked my email to see that my two businesses that I was managing from the other side of the world were operating brilliantly. No problems, no stress, nothing was happening, nothing wrong. And it hit me. This is it. This is what I've been looking for all of these years. It's not just outward success, because I did have a far better success than I'd had before. But it's that feeling that, yes, this is what my purpose in life is. This is what I'm here to do. This is what is fulfilling. This is what life without stress and problems really is. And knowing with certainty that you don't have to live with stress and problems. So then I was left with another problem, or another question, which was, how did I do this? What's going on here? I am totally confused, because how come before I was so driven, I was so committed to success, and I'd go to every workshop and every seminar and read every book. I had a huge library of personal development courses and books and videos and all those sorts of things. I'd study all of this stuff and I'd set my goals and I'd work harder and harder and I'd always be setting higher and higher goals. And I'd be going after every opportunity I could see. I'd be learning everything I could, going online and reading and trying to better and develop myself and develop my skills. How come, I said, when I did all of that, all that happened was I ended up with a life where I was miserable and then everything fell apart and I lost everything. And now everything is completely different and I'm not setting any goals. I'm not going after any opportunities. I'm not looking for anything. This is all showing up. And I said to myself, I really have to figure out what's going on here because I don't want to mess this up. I want to make sure this carries on. And that really took me down a track. And again, I wouldn't have gone down that track if I hadn't had personal experience of this whole thing, this whole contrast from what most people are trying to do to achieve quote unquote success and what creates real success in our life. So I'd never be able to start to look at how this all worked if I hadn't had all that experience. Anyway, that's the rabbit hole I went down to try and figure out, and eventually came to a much clearer idea of how we actually do get the results in our life. And it's very different to most of what we've been taught.
That's so fascinating, because it sounds like you had all these goals, and it's like you were achieving something on an exterior level to try, like the self-worth portion was kind of like your self-worth was so tied into your goals and what you were achieving. And when all this happened, you just learned to really surrender it all up. And then you found like a new purpose was to come along and to just let it flow and to happen to you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But isn't that what we've all been taught? If you want success in your life, you have to work really hard. You have to figure out what you want. You have to have goals. You have to have a clear vision for your life. And you have to have plans and strategies, and you have to learn as much as you can. Because the thing we've all been taught too is you don't have it within you. You've got to learn this stuff. You don't already have it within you. So we've been taught all of this stuff, which is all wrong. And I know it's wrong because I've experienced it. I really worked all of that stuff, and I've experienced the other side, and I know with certainty what actually works. And the great thing was I figured out logically and scientifically why this works, because it's one of the laws of nature. You know, nature rules everything. You know, we can think we're in control of our life. We're not in control of our life. You stand on top of a 10-story building and tell yourself that you're going to walk out and go up in the air. It doesn't matter how hard you pray, meditate, visualize, change your beliefs, work on your subconscious mind. It's not going to happen. You know, you are controlled by the laws of nature, and nature has very specific rules when it comes not just to gravity, but to how and why we are here and how and why we get the results we do in our life. And that was an area I'd completely missed. I'd never heard anyone else talk about it. All the gurus telling me about all this stuff, and they'd never talked about our biological purpose and how it ties in with our greater purpose. So I sort of had to go out on my own and find out all this stuff. But when I did, when I started to put it all together, what was fascinating was both science and every spiritual and religious tradition were teaching exactly the same thing. But we've all missed it. We've all gone off in another direction, believing all this other stuff that we've been told that doesn't work, and not really paid any attention to what does work.
I love the fact that everything we have is already inside of us that we need to succeed. We have tools that are given, but if we make our lives about making the process of the tools, and again, we're doing and doing and doing, and we're not receiving it or sitting there and knowing and trusting ourselves, which sounds like kind of what you did at the latter portion of it. It doesn't matter how many tools or how much you meditate it out if you're not doing the actual intention behind what it's intended for. And I feel like so many times we have all these books and we have all these courses and we have, again, all this information coming at us all the time, and we're just absorbing it, but we're actually not feeling into and doing really the whole purpose and intention behind it.
Well, actually, I took a slightly more, I agree with you, but I have a slightly more basic interpretation or understanding or an explanation of all of this. And really it comes down again to biology, because remember we talk about nature rules everything. Nature has rules, you know, and that you try and stop breathing. You try and stop your heart beating. You can't do it, no matter what you're thinking. So there's something else at play, something else at work. And what we need to first figure out or realize is that nature has a purpose. All living things have a purpose that overrides everything else. And if you ask any biological scientist, what is the purpose of life? How does life work in this natural world? They would say the primary purpose, the overwhelming aim, goal, purpose of all living things is to survive. That is what every living biological thing is wired and designed to do, is to do everything it can to survive. But what gives something the greatest chance for survival, the best chance to survive the longest? And remember, we're talking about us as well, because we're biological. We have the same breathing and physical mechanisms as every other living thing. So an organism, whether it's a human or anything else, has the greatest chance for survival, in other words, for carrying out its biological purpose, when it's thriving. When it's not just existing, but when it's being the best that it can be. The better an organism is, the greater it has the chance for survival. So how that relates to us and our purpose is we are designed to be the best that we can be so that we have the greatest chance for survival. And that doesn't just mean physically, that also means mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In other words, we're literally biologically designed. Our purpose is to live a life where we feel great, doing everything we should do, and not having problems and stress that shorten our life and that pull us down. That's our biological purpose. That's the way we're biologically wired and designed to be. So the question is, how do we do that? And more importantly, why isn't everybody like that? If you look at the rest of nature, nature lives in this perfect balance where every organism, every living thing is doing exactly what it should be to thrive without overthinking like we do. And that's a clue there. But if you really think about it, what has nature provided to ensure there is this thriving happening? Well, every organism's been given a machine. I call it a machine because it's got a job to do. And that job is to ensure that that organism is the best that it can be so that it has the greatest chance for survival. And that's a brain. That's all the brain is. It's a machine designed to make you the best that you can be so that you survive for the longest. And if you're not doing that, if you ask most people, are you the best that you can be? Are you thriving? Are you living a life where you really feel you're living your full potential? If you're not, it's not your fault. It's not because nature's designed to make sure that doesn't happen. Nature is designed to make sure that happens. The only reason is you haven't been taught how to use your success machine, the brain, the right way. Now, if you drive a motor car and you want to get somewhere, you know what it's designed to do. It's to get you from where you are to where you want to go. It's not a problem. It's what it's programmed. That's what its whole purpose is. And it's going to do that. It's going to be an enjoyable ride. But if you don't know how to drive it, you're not going to get anywhere. Or you're going to create problems. You're going to burn out the engine. And this is the cause of burnout in humans. So but we don't realize we're exactly the same. If we have problems in our life, what it is we're not using this machine the right way. It's a sign that something is not being used the right way. Now, I'd never heard about any of this stuff, but once I started to understand how the brain actually works, and I'm not talking here about the subconscious mind or any of those concepts, I'm talking about physical biology. Different parts, different regions within your brain that have different purposes and operated in different ways. And when I started to really understand this, I thought, this is a machine that most people are using the wrong way. And you can directly relate problems and lack of fulfillment in people's lives to the way they're using this machine. But you correct the way you use the machine and your results change. And that's what had happened to me. I didn't realize it. I was using my brain differently. I was using a different part of my brain. I have a model for the brain which has 4 parts, the 4-part brain model. But I was using the wrong part to try and get the wrong result. And that was what was messing me up and messing the journey up. And I didn't realize, or didn't understand how I'd switched to using this other part of the brain. And that's why everything changed. Because here's the thing as well, if I could just say, we have this idea we should know what we want. You can never know what you really want in your life. That's not your purpose. Your purpose is not to know your ultimate goal. Your purpose is to be here right now and let the machine bring you everything you need, which is much more than you can possibly think about or know yourself. Allow that machine to bring you what you're supposed to have in your life for you to thrive. That's what our job is to do, not to go out there trying to force things to happen. That's a bit of an explanation.
Yeah, let's talk about the 4 parts of the brain. Explain a little bit more about that.
Okay, well, essentially there's 2 brain states. There are 4 brain parts, but there are 2 brain states. But if you can imagine, if we are designed to thrive, if we are designed to be the best that we can be, people might relate to moments when you've experienced that. And sometimes, people have described this particular state called being in the flow or being in the zone or maybe even enlightened. But we've all had moments where we've experienced this where we suddenly just feel things are going well. Everything's falling into place and we're making good decisions. We're coming up with good ideas and we're excited. We're creative. We're grateful. We're loving. and we just suddenly we feel like things are flowing, and maybe we're being creative. This is a place that artists, musicians, creators often talk about as this, they get this information, if you like, inspiration from somewhere else. So if you think about this state of being creative, imaginative, resourceful, intuitive, it's where you get those gut feelings from, that you should do something and or something's right or something's not right. This little voice inside your head, it's where you get new ideas from. It's where you've been wrestling with a problem for 2 weeks and you can't figure out what to do, and suddenly you just forget about it, and suddenly you get the idea and think, why didn't I think of that before? Where did that idea come from? It's where you do all of these productive and things, and you're super productive, and you're more motivated to get things done, and you're having a great experience of life. What I've just described is your natural state. That's your natural biological state. Science has a word for the state. It's called homeostasis. It means your optimum functioning. Everything's going well. So all of these mental or emotional states, if you like, they're all part of you thriving. And when you're in the state, you're activating a part which I call your creative brain. And this is located in the very center of your head. And this is the part of your brain that's actually supposed to be in control of your life, because this is also the part of your brain that's going to bring you things that you might otherwise call coincidence or luck or synchronicity. It's your brain at work. It looks like coincidence, luck, and synchronicity from a low level of awareness, but when you use this part of your brain predominantly, one of the things that happens is your awareness raises. You see things differently. You see things much more for what they are, rather than what you're worried about and with this limited vision. And you realize they're not coincidences at all. It's not luck. This is the way the brain is designed to work. This 500 trillion microprocessor computer that is there for one purpose, and that's to make you the best that you can be. This is some of the stuff that it does. So this particular brain state is activated when you activate, or when you're using this part of your brain, your creative brain. So that's the way you're supposed to live all of the time, in this natural state of thriving biologically. However, there's only one time you're not supposed to live in that, and nature's amazing. It's created for us over millions of years. It's worked out the best way to create the most efficient biological machine for us to thrive. So one of the things that's created in the brain is, we might have heard of it as the fight-flight mechanism. That's part of that. But what that actually is, it's a tool or a weapon to protect you from any unexpected threats or dangers. And if you think back millions of years, there was a lion behind every rock and a snake in the grass. So we needed to develop this tool to make sure, while we're in a state of thriving, when we're in a state of thriving, if something comes along that could harm us or kill us, our brain needs to tell us a signal to activate another part of our brain, which generates a completely different set of behaviors and different responses. And this part of the brain can only do 4 things. So you imagine the lion coming along. What are your 4 options to deal with that? One is to run away. Another one is to fight, stand and fight. Another one is to freeze and hope it doesn't see you. Another one is to shout out for help. So it's perfect. They're the only 4 things you need to do when you're faced with a threat or a danger. And it's all, what happens in your brain is, another part of your brain actually, we probably don't have time to get into the full details, but it activates another part of your brain, your emotional brain, decides whether your environment is safe or dangerous. If it decides it's safe, which it should be 99.9% of the time, it activates chemicals and activates your creative brain. But if it says there's a threat or a danger, it activates this other part of the brain, which can only do those 4 things. But here's the problem. Well, it's not really a problem. It's the way it's designed. It's good for a threat like that. Because this part of your brain can only do 4 things, all of those other things, problem solving, creativity, imagination, resourcefulness, awareness, intuition, motivation, they are all shut down. That part of your brain is shut down so that your brain can deal with these danger. And what activates these 2 brain states is your emotions. So the problem, and where 99% of people are going wrong, is they don't realize is that whenever you feel fear, stress, worry, anxiety, frustration, that's a signal from your brain that you're facing a threat to your survival, and it activates this, what I call the survival brain, and it shuts down all your creative resources. So you can imagine the problem is most people are operating from that brain state and they're trying to manage their life. They're trying to figure out what they should do. They're trying to solve their problems. They're trying to come up with their goals. That part of the brain can only do those 4 things that I mentioned. So all of the problem solving, all of the stuff, if you want to know what you should be doing in your life, you'll never find out when you're in a state of stress because your brain can't show it to you. And one of the really interesting things when I started to look into this and realize that fear is the trigger. When you feel fear, for whatever reason, it's simply your brain telling you there's a threat to your survival. Now, of course, your brain's making all sorts of mistakes because most of the things we're afraid of or we feel stressed about, they're not threats to our survival anymore, but our brain thinks they are. But the problem is, as you can gather, the minute you do that, you won't be able to know what to do. You won't do the right things. You're in a reactive state. You won't know what you should, and you certainly won't know how to solve your problems. And what happens when we're in that state, which most people are? We just create more problems, or more problems show up in our life. We go after things that are a real struggle to try and achieve, and we usually don't get there anyway. And if we do, we go, well, this isn't really as good as I thought it would be. It's not doing, it's not making as happy as I should. Your brain doesn't know any of this other stuff when it's in this state. So it's about managing these 2 brain states. And people say to me, so you're saying, Liam, never be afraid and not have stress, fear and worry. It's all well for you. I've got all these problems in my life. How can I not be stressed? I've got these terrible things going on. No, being homeless is quite a big problem if you can
that's probably
look at it in that way.
Ones.
But you do have to learn a way, and this is what I spend my time teaching people once they understand this, is to look at the triggers. What are the triggers that are causing you to go into the wrong brain state? And once you eliminate those, that's when the magic starts to happen. And that's when you sit back. Well, you don't sit back. You're enjoying the ride and you're doing what you need to do. But you have a much clearer idea about your life, what you really need to be doing. And your brain brings to you the right ideas, the right people, the right information at exactly the right time. And you just let it happen. You go with the flow. You do what you need to do. And you become enormously more productive, and life becomes a completely different experience. It becomes an adventure, which is what it's supposed to be, not this, difficult, struggling misery that most of us seem to have turned our life into.
Yeah, and I feel like that's such a like you said, I'm going to bring that up because it's such a societal problem as we're stuck in that fight, flight, freeze. Our adrenalines are always going over the smallest things because it's almost like we have trained our brains and body to always be in that state of mind. So what would be some tips for someone that feels like they're always in that state of mind? They want to start something small, just to start bringing that down to get into that flow, other state of mind.
Well, I guess it's about realizing you're living by habit. If someone came to me and said, Liam, this is another example, but it's very similar. How do I lose weight? Well, or if they said, can you give me a couple of quick tips on how to lose weight? And I'd say, well, I don't know about giving you any quick tips, but all you need to do is stop eating the wrong foods and eat the right foods. That's basically it. Now, how you do that and whether you will do that comes down to understanding what the right foods are and what the wrong foods are, and also your habits, whether you're prepared to change your habits. And you only change your habits when you see the benefit and when you see how it understands, how it works. So, for instance, once you understand, if I eat that food, it's going to make me fat. Once you understand it, you've got a much greater chance of not eating it and therefore losing the weight that you want. So it's the same thing with getting the life that you want. Once you understand how you actually achieve it, what habits you need to have, and it's all about eliminating fear from your life, eliminating these triggers. Because remember, the only purpose of fear is to protect you from a threat to your survival. So sure, you don't want to get rid of fear entirely. If a car is coming screaming towards you, of course you're going to jump out of the way, or if someone's going to hit you, you're going to protect yourself. So it's not about that, but it's about getting your brain to identify what is a real threat and what isn't. And all of our life, we've been told that our life is filled with all these threats and dangers, and they're not there, but our brain thinks they are. So once you understand that's what to do, then you start to develop this new habit of not triggering the fear within you. And there's a whole host of triggers. There's really all sorts of different triggers. And this is, again, what I help people do, is to identify, because most of the triggers we're not even aware of. But here's a couple of obvious ones. If you want, give a couple of quick tips. What can you what can you stop doing today to stop making you feel bad? Because remember, if you feel bad, it's a sign. The underlying emotion is fear. Whenever you feel bad, what's underlying it is some subconscious fear. So what can I do to stop feeling bad today and stop triggering the wrong part of my brain, which is only going to do 4 things. It's only going to keep me stuck. I'm going to stay confused and not knowing what to do. And I'm going to make all these mistakes, and I'm going to stay grinding and struggling and hustling away and never getting anywhere if I use that part of my brain. What can I do to stop activating it? Here's a couple of simple things. How about turning off the news?
Yes.
Say to yourself, does this activity make me feel bad? If it makes you feel bad, stop doing it. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're talking to somebody and you're having a conversation and you're aware that it's making you feel bad, end the conversation. If you're in a relationship with somebody, or if you have a business partner or a business or a career or a job or any situation in your life, if it's making you feel bad, you've got to make some tough decisions. But it's just like looking at that pizza and cake and saying, I really love that, but I'm going to have to make a tough decision here. Do I really want to lose the weight, or am I going to give in, or am I going to do the wrong thing? So you have to look at every situation in your life and say, if this is making me feel bad, what's the price that I'm paying to have this situation in my life? Rather than realizing, if I get rid of this, my brain is going to make sure that everything turns out fine. That's what it's designed to do. I'm all worried that if I give up this job, or if I don't keep this part of my business operating, or if whatever it is, I'm really worried that if I do that, all these bad things are going to happen. That's never what happens. Your brain says, thank goodness he's out of the way now. I can get on and do my job, which is to give him the stuff he really wants and needs to be really happy and fulfilled. It's none of the stuff that he thinks that he wants and needs, because remember, he spent his life, or she, stuck in this state trying to figure all the stuff out using a part of the brain that doesn't know any of that stuff. But he thinks, or she thinks, this is all she should have. So now he's out of the way, I can get on and bring them these things. Because if someone had said to me, imagine if I was lying on my mother's sofa and I'd figured out some method for my brain to show me what my ultimate goal was. And my brain said, right, Liam, what's going to make you really happy and fulfilled in your life is you're going to meet a really special lady, and you're going to do some incredible travel. You're going to have your own yacht. You're going to sail all over the world, and you're going to learn about how the brain works and a different approach to success based on your own experience and your own research as well. And you're going to share this information with people from all around the world, and it's really going to make a big difference in people's lives. It's going to get them unstuck from this frustrating, stress-driven state that they've been in all their life. And you're going to be talking to people all over the world, like you're going to meet this wonderful woman called Alicia and be on her podcast. Now, if my brain had said that to me, I would have said, that's absolutely insane, for 2 reasons. One is, I would never have thought I could do it. What? I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to talk about the brain. Who cares about the brain? And being on a yacht, okay, I like sailing, but, So I would never have believed it could happen. And the other thing is, I didn't even know that that's what I wanted. And this is what happens to people over and over again when I work with them, is they discover this life of stuff and they go, and sometimes people email me, it's quite funny, and they say, hi Liam, it's Bill here. You're never going to believe what I'm doing now. And I always go, oh, here we go. Because they can't believe it. They're saying, I can't believe this is what I'm doing. I'm so much happier and life's amazing. Man, all of the unexpected things that have happened how did this come about? Well, they know how it comes about now, because this is their brain saying, good, he's given up this idea of figuring out his goals and what he thinks he should need, and now he's letting me do my biological job to give him everything he really needs. So it's really what it's all about. Can't remember what we started on the question there, but I hope I ended up with the right answer.
This has been great context, yeah. So kind of wrapping up with this, Liam, anyone that wants to work with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
It's all through my website, which is just my name, liamnaden.com. And in fact, I've got a little, if I may mention really briefly, one of the things people struggle with is problems in life, and they don't realize that there's a problem-solving part of their brain. The part that goes, that's the answer, that's what you should do, when you realize that's what I should do, and you do it. And because there's two sides to it. It's not just knowing what to do. You've got to do it as well. You've got to be motivated to do it. So all of that takes place in this particular part of your brain. And one of the ways you could define this part of your brain is your rapid solution brain. It's a way to come up with a solution quickly to any problem. So what I've put together is a mini course. It's an audio mini course, and it's totally free on how you can unlock this this rapid solution part of your brain, literally to deal with any problem. And I would challenge anybody who's listening to listen to this course and contact me and say that they didn't come up with this breakthrough idea in a problem they were dealing with. I had a man recently email me, and he said, Liam, this course, and it's free, it's all on my website, liamnaden.com. Or if people are listening or watching and you've got your phone handy, just do this. Just flick me an email right now to course, COURSE, at liamnaden.com. Just do it right now and you'll get instant access to this course. But one gentleman contacted me and he said, I had this real problem about what to do with this financial decision. And I did your course and I used this technique which is a simple technique, but it's one that not many people know about. He said, saved me $10,000. I had to make this decision and I didn't know what to do. I've been wrestling with it for weeks. I tried this and suddenly the answer was clear and it saved me $10,000. So thanks very much. But, if people would like to, you need to know this stuff. It's not about setting more goals or trying harder or burning yourself out, pushing harder and harder. It's about using all of the gears in your brain, not just first gear. If you use first gear in your car, you're always going to be struggling and you're going to burn out the engine. It's the same with the brain. So that's the best way to find out about all these things that I'm teaching. It's all on my website, liamnaden.com, and in particular that free course that I'm offering on how to unlock your rapid solution brain to deal with any problem. It works for any problem.
Fantastic. I'm actually going to go do that. I'm very interested in it. Of course, all his information will be in the show notes, all the links there. So click that. Go get that free course. I mean, come on, guys. Why not? So, well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. I've learned so much stuff about the brain. I'm sure our listeners have too, especially different context on things. So again, thank you, Liam, for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Alicia. Thank you very much.